Welcome. Today we're going to see how ChatGPT can make data analysis easy and useful for everyone. With AI, you can automate tough data tasks, find valuable insights, and improve your business decisions. Whether you're just starting out or want to learn more, this lesson is going to show you how to use ChatGPT for advanced data analysis effectively. Specifically, we're going to go over 6 business use cases for data analytics. We'll cover the limitations of it. We'll list the file types that ChatGPT can and cannot manipulate directly. We'll go through some data cleaning and manipulation, and then we'll analyze data and provide some executive summaries. And lastly, we'll create and interact with charts. Let's begin. Let's go over 6 business use cases. So the first one is called exploratory data analysis and data visualization. The use case, you have a data set with sales data and you want to understand the overall trends and patterns. So you could say, hey ChatGPT, help me summarize the sales data and provide insights like total sales, average sales per month, and identify peak sales period. Additionally, it can suggest and generalize visualizations such as line charts for sales trends over time or bar charts for sales by product category. This is helpful, especially if you have like a sales report that you got to provide to management and you have to like analyze a bunch of data. This is going to be really helpful. Next one is information summarization. You need to analyze performance reviews for employees to identify key strengths and areas for improvement. Really good use case for HR, for example, going through surveys. An example is ChatGPT can scan through large volumes of performance review data and extract key points such as common feedback themes or frequent performance metrics, thus saving you time for manually reading each and every single review. I actually use this one when I survey new people that join the ChatGPT course, for example. I ask them, what's your biggest challenge in using AI in your business? And I gather all that data, put it in a spreadsheet, then I give it to ChatGPT and I say, analyze and give me trends and summarize as an executive summary so I can identify what is the number one biggest pain point that people are looking to solve with basically AI business tools, or what's preventing them. So that's actually really helpful. Next one is data pre-processing and cleaning. So you have a customer data set with missing values or inconsistent data formats. Sure, you can go through and try and figure out the formula to try and fix each and every one, but you could simply give ChatGPT a prompt to help you identify and remove rows with null values in critical columns, ensuring that your data set is clean and ready for analysis. Because a huge thing with data is just being able to clean the data efficiently. So even if you don't know what exactly to clean, just giving it the prompt, please clean the data as a data analyst, will help clean the data so that you can then start working towards the next step of analyzing it. The next example is that it can also standardize data formats, such as converting all date entries to a consistent format or ensuring phone numbers follow a uniform pattern. That's a really good one because there's like complex formulas that you could create to try and get some text or numbers formatted a specific way, zip codes and addresses and stuff like that, especially for the phone number one, because everyone enters phone number differently. Some people enter area codes and country codes differently or may not be applicable. And so cleaning the data, especially for phone numbers, is a great use case because that is oh my God, that's such a time suck to try and clean that data. Next one is Excel formulas analysis. You need to perform complex calculations and analysis in Excel, but you're unsure what's the correct formula. ChatGPT can generate the appropriate Excel formula for the task, like calculating the average sales per region, summing up quarterly expenses, or performing advanced statistical analysis such as standard deviation and correlation. So that way you can just speak to it, like if you're a manager speaking to an employee saying, hey, can you sum up the quarterly expenses, or can you calculate the average sales per region? Rather than wasting time trying to go to Google and find out what's that formula and then trying to interpret that formula for your data sheet, you can just upload the file and ask ChatGPT that question in regular English. It's going to save you time on tasks that take hours to do, and also maybe even a few hours to research and try and figure out. But now you can do it simply by just talking to ChatGPT, saying just exactly what you want it to do. The last two is generate SQL code snippets. So if you want to query a database to get a specific insight, but you need help with a complicated SQL syntax, this is a real great one. So ChatGPT can create SQL queries to aggregate data such as summing up each sales region, filtering data to show only the top performing products, joining tables to combine customer and order information, or transforming data to create a new calculated column. This is incredibly helpful because the limitation also with ChatGPT is that it can't consume that much information as or basically large data sets is like its handicap. It can't do. Don't expect ChatGPT to do that for you. You're still going to use these a SQL database to be more efficient, but to improve your workflow, just like using Excel formulas, ChatGPT can create a custom SQL query to allow you to extract the data that you want, so that you can move forward and work smarter, not harder. At the end of the day. Last one is data summarization. You need an executive summary of your latest sales report for a meeting. For example, ChatGPT can analyze your sales data and generate a concise summary highlighting key metrics like total sales, growth percentage, top selling products, and regions with the highest sales increase, making it easier for you to present the data to stakeholders. This is great. So if you're in a BA role or an intern role and your manager says, hey, can you give us a sales report sheet and just dump the data and also give us an executive summary for a PowerPoint presentation? Here you can save yourself hours of time trying to analyze and do summaries and do calculations and trying to look for the data point. Here you can simply upload the file to ChatGPT, and then you can ask these questions to it and get the answers and then put them in a presentation. Let's talk about limitations. So first one, lack of accuracy. ChatGPT is not perfect. It will hallucinate or make mistakes. So you really have to double check its work. Always. I always go by the rule, never trust anything that the AI outputs, regardless. You always just need to double check its work to make sure that it's generating quality work that you can use and rely on for business decisions. It also has a limitation of it can't handle very large data sets. So it's going to take a lot of processing time. It's going to hallucinate. So you want to break down, again, this goes back to prompt engineering, our beginner class, where you want to break down the task that you're working on or the business question that you're trying to answer with a much smaller data set, so that it can use its code interpreter to easily analyze the data, because it's basically going to build a little Python program to run this program. It doesn't have that much memory to run or basically compute a large amount of data, for example. It's also is dependent on the user input, so we're not removing the person from the loop, and also the quality of your question that you're trying to answer is going to determine the quality of the output. But just like from our beginner ChatGPT prompting lesson, you want to provide lots and lots of context around its role, its task, and the specific format that you're looking for, so that ChatGPT can give you exactly what you want. Lastly, let's talk about, most importantly, data privacy and security challenges. Look, do not put sensitive or confidential or PHI or personal or company information in it. You know that ChatGPT is basically, look, all these tools are owned, ChatGPT is owned by Microsoft. They're data harvesting everything that you provide. Do not provide proprietary information, or especially email list if you're in marketing, for example. Do not provide that list to ChatGPT or that data, because at the end of the day, ChatGPT cannot be trusted. As far as they're a private company, and it's also owned by Microsoft, and they're selling your data at the end of the day. Not only selling your data, but they're also harvesting all the prompts and the user input. All it is every AI model is just harvesting more training data for future models. So please do not put private information in it, and it's also a security thing. So unprepared data, especially if it's super complex or unstructured, it's not in a proper data set format. For example, it just has a bunch of headers and graphics. Some users actually stylize their Excel sheets like user forms or documents. So it's not actually a formatted data set where every column has its own data type, such as one column for sales, one column for region, for example. They stylize it like a report. I've seen for users, especially sales reps, do that. So if it's unprepared data or it's not formatted correctly, ChatGPT is going to have a difficult time trying to interpret it. So you want to standardize your data. Lack of contextual business understanding. Look, ChatGPT doesn't know your business. It doesn't know what you're doing. It doesn't have any reference. Now, if you could go a step farther and build a custom GPT that knows everything about your business, nuances, sales, metrics, and it's give it a small enough snapshot of like about your business. But then you can upload the file and then it could provide a little better answer. But just know that it has a very limited understanding of your business context at the end of the day. The last one is manual data upload. Since we're using ChatGPT through the normal user interface, it's manual for you to upload a file and have ChatGPT do a task with that file, or you could go the next level in ChatGPT with custom GPTs, and then you could upload that file and then do a pre-made prompt that's like a business tool. I'll show a demo of that later on, which will actually be really cool. So yeah, just know that you got to manually upload your data every single time you wanted to process a request or to do something with that data. Next one are file types that ChatGPT can directly manipulate and analyze, and files that ChatGPT can read but cannot manipulate. I found this very interesting. So what that means is basically every file that you see on your screen right now, ChatGPT can directly read, manipulate, and analyze data from these file types. For example, you can upload a CSV file with sales data, and ChatGPT can calculate the totals, averages, generate reports, and visual data trends. So, and then it could also save the CSV file if you want to make any changes, for example. I thought this was very interesting. So this is really good to know as far as like it could read a bunch of different files, but it can't do its data analysis, for example, for these files. These are files that ChatGPT can read, but it cannot manipulate. And what that means is that ChatGPT can read the text contents of these files, but it cannot manipulate. And more importantly, especially for this lesson, it can't analyze the data within them directly. So for example, ChatGPT can extract text from a PDF file, summarize a Word document, or describe the contents of an image file, say image of a sales dashboard, for example, but it cannot perform data calculations or generate charts from these formats without additional processing. So I found that very interesting. So these ones that are, just know that it's like at the end of the day, you're mostly going to be working with a CSV or Excel file with multiple tabs. Just make your life easier at the end of the day. In the workbook provided with this course, you'll get access to this data sheet. So basically in this data sheet, if you haven't worked with Google Sheets, it far surpasses as far as like usability as far as Excel. Please highly recommend investing in Google Sheets over Excel. You'll save yourself on the license. Everything's saved in the cloud. It's so much easier to work with, and trust everything's backed up, and it makes it very easy to collaborate with your business users, especially using Sheets. So in this workbook, I'm basically just going to go over the different data sets. So you have an example of what we're working with, and then we'll go to ChatGPT for different use cases with each of these data sets, for example. So starting off, there's multiple different tabs. If you don't know, on the bottom left-hand side, you could click this All Sheets button right here. You can see a list of all the different tabs for each example, for example. So you have supermarkets, EDA, information summarization, data preprocessing. So each one of these tabs, when you click on them, has a specific data set that's formatted in a specific way. So for example, information summarization, this one just has text from a survey, for example, and I asked ChatGPT to generate this data set. So that's a cool thing that you can do, is if you want practice or more practice, you can actually ask ChatGPT to create a data set for you to practice with, for example. So then we have data processing and cleaning. See, we have missing emails, missing date fields, missing information. Even the phone number is not formatted consistently, for example. So these are going to be great practice files so that we can upload these files to ChatGPT and then practice with some prompt engineering with them. You'll have access to the sheet, and if you don't know, this is really good, how to turn a sheet into a CSV file to uploading. Yes, you could upload the entire workbook, but we're going to focus on each of these and turn them into individual CSV files. You don't have to do this. It should be saved in the workbook for you, but just in case if you want to know, go ahead and click the tab that you want. So let's say this tab right here that has EDA and data visualization data. It's a little data set. You're going to click File, Download, and then Common Separated Value. And then once you click that, automatically names it. In our download folder, we can see, here's the name of the file plus the little dash, and then there's the name of the tab that it downloaded. It doesn't download when you do CSV files. It doesn't download all of them. It will just do the one that you're selected or looking for. So I went ahead and created each of those already for this example. So I have a CSV file for each of these, and I'll be uploading them one at a time with the prompt so that we can work and practice together. All right, we're finally in ChatGPT. Great. So I'm going to go through each of those 6 examples that I mentioned through the course. I'm going to basically go through an example for each of these business use cases, for example, and then I'm going to upload a file so that we can work with it. So let's begin with uploading the first one. I'm on ChatGPT 4.0, so I get the data interpreter model. I'm going to click down here in the paperclip icon, and then I'm going to click upload from computer and select the first one, which is going to be EDA. Perfect. So it uploads the file, and now I'm going to copy paste my first prompt. Use the monthly sales data, generate a summary report that includes the total sales for each month and the average sales per month. Additionally, create a line chart to visualize the sales over trend. So you see here we're doing 2 parts. One part we're going to get an executive summary, so text, we're asking for it back. And then second, we're also going to get a chart. So we're going to click the little send button. It's going to upload. This will visualize the data. See here, it's analyzing, so that's when you know it's using a code interpreter. And then just code interpreter just means it's writing custom Python code, because remember, ChatGPT, its limitation is it's a large language model. It can't do math, can't do reasoning, can't do logic. So it needs, especially for reading files too. So that's why it's using the code interpreter feature built into ChatGPT 4 and 4.0. Now, I don't think it's on ChatGPT 3.5. It's not. So just know there. So I wrote a low code, and now we get a nice little chart that you could expand this chart by clicking the arrows right here, and this will expand the chart. Here we can see monthly sales trend. So it even tells you the y-axis is sales, and then which is this, and then the x-axis is month. Great, so it's even labeled nicely. At the very upper right of your chart are a few buttons that we could go over some additional features when interacting with the chart in this expand mode. So the first one, you have the ability to switch between 2 modes. One is a statistical chart, which looks like this. You can't interact with it. It's just going to give you a chart of data. I don't even think you could change the color on it. No, you can't even change the color. And then next one, if you click that same button again, it will toggle to an interactive chart, which just means if I click and hover my mouse over certain points, it's now interacting with it. So I can see additional values, but I can't do that in a statistical chart, but just a different view. And then also in a interactive chart, if we go to the next button, we can change the color of it to, let's say, red or green or orange, or you can enter a specific hex code for a color that you want. Here you could download the chart. So if I click that, it's going to download a PNG image of the chart. Ooh, that looks pretty ugly. If you're on Mac, do Command-Shift-5. If you don't know, Command-Shift-5 will bring up toolbar on Mac. And then right here you can do, this is why I like doing it. This is like a one-time setup. If you click this little, this first one for capture selection, go options, and then go clipboard, because this will save, it defaults and saves it to a desktop. And then if you hit escape, now here's the hack. So Command-Shift-5 to like change the settings basically. Command-Shift-4, so Command-Shift-4, now my mouse turns into like a little like cursor. Now I could take a screenshot, go shoo, click once and drag, and then let go, and then boom, now I have a real nice image. So that's why we use Macs and not Windows computers. Just going to give you a little Mac tips along the way. That's a much better looking chart. I like that. So built-in screenshot using Mac. The next one is to get out of the expand option. So you could click this button, it will collapse the chart and bring us back to our regular chart here. And then you could do all those same features without having to expand it. Remember, statistic only works for interactive. Click dataset and go green, red, pretty cool. And then if we click download, see if we get a better picture. No, we don't get a better picture. I like screenshots, so Command-Shift-5 or Command-Shift-4, copy, highlight, and then I now got a real nice image I could use. Then if we continue on, we could scroll down and it says, so here's the summary of the report for the monthly sales data. Total sales for the month. The table provides a breakdown, and average sales was $5,000, 158. I would always just double check the data. Like honestly, if like this is my job's on the line, honestly, like I would always double check the data. Like that's just, it's going to give you that peace of mind, for example. And then it gives you a little summary. Nice. Let's do another quick prompt right here. We're going to just say, so here's another prompt using the same data. I already uploaded the file, so I don't have to upload it again. I'm still in the same chat, so that way I could continuously ask it more information from this chat. Analyze the monthly sales data and provide a summary of sales distribution by product category, and create a pie chart to show the percentage of total sales contributed by each product category. So pretty much we can see a pattern in the two different ways that we're doing a prompt in here. We're going to, one, get some text executive summary. You always, whenever you work with data, for example, you always want to work with what's the number one question you're trying to ask. Most data and dashboards mess up when they're trying to ask too many questions, for example. So the goal here is to focus just on one specific question that you want to answer in text form. So like, what's the average monthly sales? And then second is you could do a dashboard or a chart to answer that, to visually understand that chart. So, but fundamentally, especially when you're doing data analysis, you're just asking one question. So, and your one question, you're getting a text answer, and you're also going to visualize that answer. So let's send this off. We didn't have to upload the data. We can see it's analyzing because it remembers the data file. It's using its code interpreter to analyze and write the Python program in real time. That is fancy. If you want to learn how to program Python, it's going to like change your life. Honestly, it's like the most powerful language. This is really good because then you're like, oh, how would I do it? Because even if you don't know, this is just super helpful for code, for if you want to learn how to do software development. You can see here the natural language syntax that it used. So like these are just comments, summarize the sales distribution by category, and then it creates variables, and then you can see how did it do it, and then here for the next step. God, that's all coding is. It's just breaking it down to small micro tasks and explicitly saying step by step what you want to do. So this is just a great way to learn how to do Python code on the back end. That's just awesome. So we got here sales distribution by product category. We can see clothing, electronics, and furniture. Ooh, this looks really nice. Look at that. And if you hover your mouse over, it's interactive. So we can see the different percentages. We could download the chart too and get a picture of it. See if it's it's a little better. Those pictures, they'll eventually get better with that. Again, I like Command-Shift-5. That's just going to be super cool. I'm going to throw this in my Canva presentation slides so I could give my executive summary to my executives. That's awesome. It shows you the data that it pulled from it to answer the question, and says, here's a summary of the sales distribution by product category, so you could kind of check its work too. So clothing, this value; electronics, this value; furniture, this value. And then it gives you a little answer, like it just repeats itself as far as like, hey, this is what it answers. So the pie chart. Awesome. That looks really cool. Let's do another example. So for this next example, remember, we're going to practice shortcut keys because we're super productive. Remember our two shortcut keys. You could do Command-Shift-S, and that will just kind of bring out the sidebar. So Command-Shift-S. Always use shortcut keys when you're working. I've started using them, and it's actually super handy. But the next one, to start a brand new chat, I'm going to do Command-Shift-O, and that will open a new chat. And just remember, if you're like, oh, what were the chats? Bottom right hand corner, you could click keyboard shortcuts, and you can see open new chat, Command-Shift-O for open. That's what I like to remember. And now we got a brand new chat. We can start the next one, which is for information summarization. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the prompt example. So for this next one, I'm going to upload the file, and this one is going to be for information summarization. Boom. So I got my second CSV file. I have my prompt. Summarize the employee performance reviews by extracting the key feedback points for each employee. Identify the common strengths and weaknesses across all reviews and present them in a report. We're not asking for a chart this time. Notice it's a different use case. This is like if HR downloaded a bunch of surveys and they're like, man, I don't want to read through 1,000 surveys and try and figure out the trends and patterns of what people want and stuff like that. Instead, I'm just going to download in or save it to a CSV file, upload it to ChatGPT with my prompt to summarize the information and identify common strengths and weaknesses, and click enter. And then here we can see it will show you that data, because remember, this one is a different one. It's just like, hey, here's a bunch of summary reports. I don't have time to read them, for example, if I'm in HR. Saves you time. It writes a little Python program using this data analyzer. This is really helpful to know if it actually did the work, kind of thing. So then we can see, oh, cool. It added some extra columns, did some strengths, did some weaknesses. So it actually made a whole separate data set. We could expand on this to be like, oh, wait, the first two columns were the ones that I gave it. That's all. There's nothing in other columns. So it actually uploaded the data sheet, created columns, and then answered those columns for me. That's actually super handy. Wow. So then we could download this, press download, and it will download not an image, but notice it's a CSV file. So I'm going to go to my download folder, employee review, it's a CSV file. And if you want to view a CSV file, if you go to Google Sheets, well, actually, I'm going to show you guys something super cool because you guys are awesome. If you're already logged in to your Google account, if you press Command T, it will open a new tab. So Command T for new tab. And then here you can go type in Sheets, SHEETS.NEW. If you type that, I can't zoom in, but yeah, sheets.new and press enter. Since you're logged into Chrome and Gmail, it will automatically open a Google Sheet ready for you to use, blank sheet. And then we could go File, Import, go to Upload, and then we can upload, drag and drop that file right here. And it says, hey, what do you want to do? I want to actually replace the current sheet with this data, import that data. Because if you open, I don't know if you know, just for some people, if you open a CSV file, it just looks like this. It stands for comma separated. Oh, I forgot what it says. Basically, every column is separated by a column. But here, now, oh man, that's super handy. Python, ChatGPT, we just gave it this data set, and it did all this for us. That's super handy. Imagine the implications where you're like, hey, read this data sheet, add a column, and do a summary or categorize. You can even do categorizing business expenses for like for finance. That's actually pretty cool. Go through, here's a sheet of expenses. Go ahead and give the business categorization based on whatever, marketing, sales, stuff like that. So actually that's pretty cool. So we downloaded our file. I'm going to click collapse. So it updated a new data table. And then here's an executive summary. And then here's our text summary where it said, oh, these are the common strengths. These are some of the weaknesses. That's good to know if I'm HR. That saved me a whole lot of time from trying to like read that file, for example, and trying to interpret, for example. That's super handy. Let's do another prompt with this same data set. So I'm not going to upload the same file. I already infers that. I'm going to say, can you analyze the performance review data set and create a summary that highlights the top 3 most frequent mentioned strengths and the top 3 areas needing improvement amongst employees? Great. And then it gave us a summary of the performance reviews. These are the top 3 most frequent mentioned strengths, the top 3 areas needing improvement. That's super handy. So you could feed it a bunch of text. It can analyze and give you an interpretation based on a summary, basically information summarization when you upload a data set of text, for example. In this next one, this one's probably going to be like the most common use case. We're going to upload data, processing, and cleaning. That's the task we want you, because this was the data table that has, remember, blank rows and unformatted phone numbers. So the time it would take to try and figure out a formula to try and format these, and it's not consistent, and try and clean all this data, that would take a lot of time. So we're going to say, hey, ChatGPT, use the customer data set. We want to remove the missing values in the email and the join date columns. So we're being very explicit about what columns we wanted to do what task, for example. And then in this column, remember we're using single quotation marks to let it know like, hey, this is the column name. That's important. Hey, in this column, we want you to standardize the phone number format to this format for all entries. Let's go ahead and send that off. You can see our this is probably the biggest time saving, is just trying to format, process, and clean the data just so you can start using it for any reporting and stuff like that. This is probably the biggest time suck that a lot of people have to do with cleaning the data. Great, and it's done. It says the data set has been cleaned by removing the missing values in the email and join date column. Additionally, the phone number has been standardized to that format and is cleaned and ready for processing. So let's take a look. We're like, yeah, that does look clean. Look at that, super nice. And then if we want to download it, go ahead and click the little download button right here. It's going to download a CSV file. And then if I go to Google Sheets and I go File, Import, go to Upload, and then for my download history right here, I could click and drag that downloaded folder into here. And we're going to say, yeah, just replace replace the spreadsheet, for example, import the data. Now it gave us clean data. So we went from this horribly formatted data to now this nicely formatted data. If you highlight all columns and double click by the column thing, it will kind of like sort them. Look at that. That saved us so much time. That is super handy. Let's go through the next one. Okay, in this next example, let's say a situation where the boss comes to you and asks you to update the spreadsheet with a custom Excel formula, and you're like, I don't know what formula I should use. I don't know what I should put to try and answer this question. So we're going to have ChatGPT give us the Excel formula to answer a complex business question. So for example, we want to calculate the quarterly sales growth for each region using the provided quarterly sales data. Generate the necessary Excel formulas to compute the growth percentages between consecutive quarters. Don't feel bad if you don't know what that means. It's just basically the challenge is we're trying to ask ChatGPT to give us the Excel formula so that we could paste it in our Google Sheet, so that or Excel sheet, so that it can actually run, and we don't have to, because we're not asking ChatGPT to actually do it, because ChatGPT is not Excel or not Google Sheets basically, so the formulas are meaningless in it. But we're asking ChatGPT what's the Excel formula that we should copy paste into it based on our data set, so that we can answer this question right here. Awesome, and it's done. This is super helpful if you're learning Excel or Google Sheets for the first time. And the biggest thing is, it's just like programming. No one memorizes all the formulas. Like no one memorizes all the syntax for coding. You just have to be resourceful enough to know where can you go to look for the answer. So every coder, for example, goes to Google to search for what's the formula that does XYZ, for example. The same thing with Excel. As long as you know how to ask the right question, you can get the right answer. So right here, and it actually teaches you, which is really cool. So Excel formulas for quarterly sales growth. To calculate the quarterly sales growth for each region, you can use the following formulas in Excel. Assuming the data set starts with A1, which is column A, row 1, or row 1, for example, with headers shown. So then you could go, Q1 to Q2 growth. You could calculate this. Awesome. You should use these formulas. Oh, yeah, equals C2 by B2 by B2. Excel is basically like Battleship, which is super funny. Column 2, row 2, column C, row 2, column B, row 2, and so forth and so forth. And then it does it for all of them. This will be super hard to like figure out, especially if you're like new to the job and you're trying to figure out for the first time. Then it updates the sheet. Now again, ChatGPT will not calculate because it's not an Excel sheet or it's not a Google Sheet in and of itself. So it won't actually run that program. However, it will show you what you need to put where so that you could copy this formula into your Google Sheet, so that that Google Sheet or Excel can actually do the calculations, and then you can run it there. So here we're just asking for what's the complex formula base that we want. That's awesome. So it says you could copy paste these formulas into the respective cells to compute the growth percentage for each quarter. That is awesome. Let's try another Excel question. For example, you're like, hey, for example, using the quarterly sales data, create an Excel formula to calculate the total annual sales for each region. Additionally, calculate the average quarterly sales for each region. Now, again, we're not asking ChatGPT to do the work for us per se. We're just asking it to, hey, look at this data set and what's the formula? That's pretty much what you're asking, because if you were to Google this, it would give you a very generic formula, and then you have to interpret that based on your data set to know what to put where, for example. So here it understands our data set, and it gives us the Excel formula that we could copy and paste this into our Google Sheet or Excel sheet. And then we can get, for example, the answer to our question, which is to compute the total annual sales and the average quarterly sales for each region. That is awesome. All right, we got 2 more examples to practice with more. And again, each of these examples is giving you a different use case of how we can upload a data sheet to ChatGPT to help it accomplish a data analyst task, for example. So here, different context, we're saying we're uploading a data sheet, and here we're going to ask it, generate a SQL query to find the top 10 best-selling products from the product sales data. The query should select the product names and sales volume and rank them in descending order of sales volume. That would be a super complex SQL query. And especially, so the benefit of this is that you don't know if you try and Google this question to try and find the answer. It's going to give you you have to break down each step to find a template for each SQL query and then piece it together, and then you have to connect it with your data set. But look at this. It, number one, understood the data set that we have, for example, here. So it says, based on the structure of the provided product sales data, so it knows the columns and stuff. Then it gives us a SQL query, select this column and this column from this data set. I haven't done SQL in so long. It's been, oh my God, ages. And then order it by this column in descending order, and then give us only the top 10 from there. And then it even explains it. Select product and sales, selects the product names and the sales volumes, specifies the data table containing the product sales data. Then it orders the results by sales volume in descending order, and it limits the results to the top 10 best-selling products. And this, again, we want to know the limitations. We're not trying to get ChatGPT to do the work for us, or even to remember the limitation. You can't upload a large data set to try and answer the question, but we can either ask for an Excel formula or we can ask for a SQL query, so that we can use the right tool for the job, because ChatGPT is not replacing Excel or Google Sheets. Those tools, it's not going to replace it at the end of the day. It's a personal assistant. It's meant to help you with micro tasks. So the micro tasks of trying to figure out the SQL query based on your data set that would take like an hour. If you're brand new to this, for example, it would take you some time, but here you can upload it. It will understand the context of your data set and then and then even teach you. That's the cool thing. So you get better learning more about how to write SQL queries. Let's do another one. So for our next one, we're going to ask, write a SQL query to calculate the total sales volume for each product category from the product sales data. Group the results by product category and then sort them in descending order by sales volume. Now, again, the prompt really is arbitrary. It doesn't really matter. Basically, what we're trying to do is saying, hey, there's this large data table. I don't know. And then I got to write a SQL query and I'm under a time crunch. And then looking at Google, trying to figure out, and then I got to compare it and add my own data set table to make it, because Google will give you an article, they'll give you a template, and you got to piece it together. This is super helpful by knowing how to ask the right question and to use the right tool, for example, to help you with this micro task, for example, of creating a custom SQL query. Look at that. Gave us our SQL query, gave us a whole explanation of how it works. That is super handy. Let's do the last example. All right, last example, and I have 2 prompts for this one. This is for data summarization. So for example, using the sales report data set, create an executive summary that includes key metrics such as total sales for the year, average monthly sales, and top selling products, and the region with the highest sales. Present the summary in a concise format. So here, this is super helpful. The business use case is like, oh my God, I got this data. I have to report to my manager, the CEO, or the chief financial officer, and we got to report this once a week. And oh my God, it takes hours to do this task. But you could upload it to ChatGPT, know exactly how to write the question, and now we could get this quick thing, executive summary report. Here's our key sales, our average, our top selling product, and our region with the highest sales data. So quick and easy, we're turning a data set into an executive summary so that we can quickly accomplish this micro task. Let's do one last example. So in this last example, we're asking, analyze the sales report data using the same data sheet to generate a summary highlighting the monthly sales trend, the top 3 products with the highest sales, and the regions with the highest and lowest sales. Provide this information a clear and concise executive summary. So again, we're trying to be very descriptive of first, hey, ChatGPT, analyze it. And then we're breaking down the different micro tasks that we want it to do, generate a summary, comma, then also another instruction we want. These are like questions that you're going to be asking. Hey, comma, ask a question, comma, ask a question. Since it's going to be an executive summary, you could just comma and just ask question. And then we're being very explicit with what we want. We don't want charts. We don't have time for that. We just want a clear text executive summary. So then ChatGPT takes the data, it says basically it's saying here, hey, I used this data to answer your question. It's kind of just showing you its work. So here is our executive summary, monthly sales trend, each by month. That's awesome. Awesome. Our top 3 products. Awesome. Region. And lastly, let's turn that into a chart. Turn that into a chart to visualize the information. One last bonus kind of thing. We're like, great. Takes the same data. We don't have to upload it in every prompt. Nice. And it gave us a little dashboard that we could expand. So if we click expand, and look at this awesome little dashboard. Cool. There's our monthly sales trend, top 3 products with the highest sales, and sales by region all in one chart. But just know, since whenever it does multiple charts, it won't be in interactive mode. It's in statistical mode where it just shows you a picture, a screenshot. You can't hover your mouse in or change the colors. So just know that's one limitation. If you ask it a specific show me one chart question, it will give you an interactive chart. But if you're asking basically for like basically a sales dashboard with your question was multiple charts, then it says, oh, interactive charts are not supported. As of today, it may get better. And then we have our answer. Wonderful. I'm going to show you one special bonus part here called, now, let's say you've been working with ChatGPT, you got a bunch of prompts and questions, and you're like, hey, I have to do this analytical task every week for management. I got to provide some executive summary, some text. I got to create some charts. I got to provide an analysis and some key summaries. I got to do all these step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't want to upload the file every single time and ask and pre-prompt it and go through this whole back and forth kind of thing. This is the next level where you want to create a business tool. For example, like how about an executive sales dashboard that answers all this for you so that you can just upload a different file every week that has the same format but new data, and it could provide you an executive summary with charts just the way you want. So I did that using ChatGPT. So creating custom GPTs, you'll get that in the next, it's coming up in the lessons. So go explore GPTs, create GPT, but I have one here. Don't worry, I'll show you how to make one in a future lesson coming up. I just want to show you right here where now to take it the next level, you take your prompts and the next thing you want to do is save your prompts or template them or create a custom GPT so that if you have to do this task in the future, it's going to save you hours of time. So here I created a custom GPT. That's a business tool that generates executive summaries and charts from uploaded sales data and CSV files. Awesome. And then look at my prompt engineering. So I'm going to expand this. So I provided all the step 1, step 2, step 3, everything that I want. So here it's going to say you are a data analyst. Use the attached file. Step 1, clean up and format the data. Step 2, understand the data from the data analyst role, and then using the data provided, answer the following questions. Here's the executive summary that I want, for example, like overview of sales, sales by region, sales by item. And then here, I also want these specific charts. I want total sales by region, then I want total sales by item, then I want total sales trend, for example. And then lastly, I want some key insights. Provide me some key insights and some recommendations to improve sales. So I did all my pre-prompting. This is your prompt engineering, explicitly, basically working step by step, explicitly saying what you want from the model. And click close. So then I have you would just upload your file every week here, one at a time. And then I have just a conversation starter that says analyze file. So if I open now, so it's a brand new week, I am ready to do my sales dashboard. I uploaded the file to my bot, and now I just click analyze file. All right, it's finally done analyzing and giving us our answer. So look, it gave us an executive summary. It answered all the questions that we want in the order that we want with the summary. Then it even created the charts. And remember, these are interactive charts. So if you hover over them, it'll give you some cool interactivity. Very cool. Remember, you can switch between interactive and statistical, which doesn't interact, which is not interactive basically. Now, I'll be honest, I had to run this 3 different times because I'm doing this at 5 o'clock on a Saturday and it's probably busy under heavy load. So if ChatGPT freezes or it's blank on the answer that it's trying to get to it, just start a new conversation and then start over. Basically super easy. And then we got all our sales trend data. We got our units sold. Cost. Now, if I have to provide this report every week to my sales manager, for example, to give an analysis and then also key insights and then give recommendations, now this is where building custom GPTs automates the whole work, and you can literally write on a piece of paper just all this digital notebook, all the 10 steps that you need to do, because you got to accomplish this task, you got to do this task again every week. So you just write down all the 10 steps that you want, create a custom GPT bot, and then you can upload the file. The only thing that changes really is the file. So this is super handy. So that's creating custom GPTs as a sales dashboard tool, which is super handy. That's advanced though. We'll go more deeper into creating GPTs in the next lesson. All right, it's your turn to practice, and I gave you a huge data set to practice with. You can ask a lot of questions from this data set. So it's called supermarket sales. So if you download and save that, these are the questions I want you to answer. Using the supermarket dataset, I want you to answer the 5 questions here. 1, we want to practice data cleaning. So here's the prompt. Please clean the dataset by removing any rows with null values and provide a summary of the clean data. Next one, determine the location generated. Next, determine which location generated the most revenue and provide the total revenue for that location. Next one, generate a chart that shows the difference in total sales between male and female customers. Next one, analyze the data set to determine which customer type, was it member or normal, generates the most revenue and provide a total revenue for each of those types. And lastly, what is the total sales by product line? Create a chart showing the sales breakdown for each product line. So go ahead and download that data table, upload it to ChatGPT, and then go ahead and practice one by one with each of these prompts. And then for extra credit, you could go ahead and practice some of the other prompts using the other data tables for like the summarization or the Excel formula, for example, just to get more practice right there. This is super helpful. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this very long episode, but learning takes time and there's a lot to cover, especially when it comes to data analysis. But now it shows you a bunch of different business use cases that you could upload a data set and then get a specific answer using ChatGPT to save you hours in trying to accomplish that task, for example, rather than trying to do it manual. That's the end of this lesson, and I will see you in the next lesson.